With knowledge forged from years of restaurant experience, Chef Nathan Lockwood takes you into the heart of the kitchen and reveals the techniques you need to succeed. Join us at Restaurant Equipment World as we take you into the dojo.
Alright, the next knife we'll talk about is a serrated bread knife. I have two different kinds here. It's really just going to depend on how you like to hold your knives. So the first one is going to come straight down from the blade to the handle. This is a more traditional bread knife. It's got a serrated edge. A serrated edge is important for cutting the bread. When you're trying to cut breads with a straight blade like a chef's knife, you're pushing down on that bread so much that you're going to ruin the crumb or the air spaces that are inside of that bread as you compress it, and you're going to make the bread more dense. These serrated edges will allow you to cut that bread without mushing it down, as it will tear the bread as much as it does cut it, which in a way almost sounds counterintuitive, but that's what you're going to want with that. And with the other side, this is an offset handle, so that when you're using this on the cutting board, when you get down to the bottom of the bread, now the blade edge will be even with the cutting board without your knuckles slamming into the cutting board. Alright, the next knife that we're going to talk about is a slicing knife or a roast knife. You will notice that it is a long, straight edge, and all of these will be beveled on the outside. This will allow, you wouldn't want to be cutting cheeses with this, but if you're cutting something like cheeses, but this will allow the meats that you're carving, hams, roast beef, things like that, to simply fall away from the blade. They're not going to stick. Especially when you're doing presentation cutting, you're out at a buffet board or you're on a brunch, you're going to want that to look nice as you're slicing the meat and just watching it fall away. Next up is, pun intended, the heavy hitter of the kitchen. This is going to be your cleaver. It's going to be handle heavy. You want that. Blade heavy is good as well, but your handle, you're going to want something. When I say heavy, it's not going to be balanced towards the handle, but it's going to be a strong, durable handle. It's because this is made for cutting through bones. This is made for chopping. This is made for cutting your chickens in half. You can take your shanks apart with this right at the tendon or right at the joints. This will get through it. This is going to be your workhorse. It can be used for delicate vegetable chopping, things like green onions and things like that, and some cooks prefer to use something like this. But the real place where this is going to shine is when you're trying to destroy something that has a bone in it. Last thing we're going to talk about are paring knives. Paring knives are going to come in a couple different sizes as far as the blade length, and they're going to come in a couple different uses. There's a scalloped or serrated paring knife. There is a straight edge paring knife, and then you'll also see what could be known as a garde knife or a parrot beak paring knife. This will be used for a lot of peeling, tornading potatoes, things like that. They're all going to have their own particular use, so depending on what you need and what you're doing in the kitchen will greatly influence which of these styles that you're going to need. And it was asked, what is the proper way to hold a knife when you're going to be using it? The proper way is to have your hand completely behind the handle, and if there's a barrier here, a bolster, you're going to want to have your hand behind that so that you have full control of the knife. Practically speaking, some people are not always going to hold their knives that way. For instance, I myself am more comfortable when I grip the end of the blade between my thumb and my index finger. It, to be honest, creates a slightly less ideal cutting technique, knife techniques, but you're going to want to be comfortable when you're holding your knife. But number one, you're always going to want to be careful. If your staff is not trained and you have not trained them properly on how to use a knife, you should probably invest in some cutting gloves. This will prevent accidents and will probably save you some workman's comp money. So what you're going to want to do with a traditional style European knife is these are made to rock from the tip and the point through to the end, and then repeat the process with a rocking motion. These are not made for up and down chopping, unlike the Japanese style knives. Sometimes you may even see people, when trying to cut things small, to go into using two blades with the same hand. With an index finger resting between the two of them, they're essentially trying to cut twice as much, twice as fast. If you're comfortable with your staff or yourself using a knife like this, that's fine. But again, if you're not, I would suggest getting a rocker blade, similar to what a lot of pizza places will use to cut their pizza, and have them use that.